The first part of this, we are going to talk about better design decisions. Tableau has become very successful in the designing and the visual aspect of it. So we are going to spend a little time understanding this, why and how. I'll start with a question. What is the common thing between these three things which you believe? Like, you have a Google search, we have iPad, and Tableau. What do you think is common? Google and iPad. Any similarities? You can speak up as well if you want to unmute and answer that. Any thoughts? Something. Tool system, both of them. Could be iPhone, anything, yeah. Data, a lot of information, true.
Collection of data.
People, yeah. The pioneers in the space, right? Google is the go-to place for information search. iPad or iPhone is the one which really transformed the smartphone industry. Tableau is one which has transformed the visualization industry by directly. So these are pioneers in this place. But the bigger question is, what is common between them is this thing. And this is, in my mind, the secret sauce behind these being so successful. They're really beautiful. They're very elegant in the way they are designed, right? They're easy to use. There is no manual for how to search in Google, right? There is no manual for iPad. You don't get a manual for that. It's so intuitive that you can start using it. It has to be easy. And finally, it has to be useful. If it is all beautiful and easy to use, but it's not used, there's no point of having that tool, right? On a side note, these are really the characteristic you look for a life partner. You want it beautiful, you want easy to get along, and we want it to be useful, helping each other and working together as a team. That's a side note, but to me, it seems like these are three characteristics you should be looking for anything and everything in life. And these are the things which really, in my mind, make Tableau so successful. So keeping that as a very, very concept level, what we are going to spend most of the time today, this is the theme. This is the theme which we are going to go and see how Tableau is beautiful, how it is easy, and how it is useful. And that will really bring up all the aspects of the agenda which we were working. So this is the theme. Just stay along with this, and we'll go through it. What's happening is, if you read these, there are two things will be happening. So you see, and when you start reading yellow, your one side of your brain, there's a left brain and the right brain thing going on. If you try to read it, one side of the brain is trying to read the words, and the other side of the brain is trying to read the colors or watching the colors. And a tricky question many times in the puzzles people ask, try to read the colors, not the word. So instead of yellow, you should be saying green. And if you try that attempt, it's really hard for your brain to do that. And that's exactly the clash of the two brains. And in my mind, to be successful, to be elegant and beautiful and useful, you have to bring both these pieces. It's not about just be artistic and not have the logical and useful data, versus just not being analytical only and not have usefulness and easiness. So that's one part of it. We see everywhere which we go around. And there are many, many places where efficient design really helps us to make life better. Our airports, our railways are very much good symbols of things. These places, we need this information at the single moment to take the decision and take a turn or change things accordingly. And these are designed in such an elegant way to make that happen. And these are characteristics which really help to make this successful. So that's how a better design can be. Now, inefficient design, talking about inefficient design, many places you find such kind of doors. You find it says push, and actually there's a handle which tempts you to make it pull, right? So that happens. And this is kind of design which has not been kept in mind while constructing things. Design, first thing, a lot of people at least start thinking is, oh, design means the visual aspect of it. Design is functional. And Steve Jobs and Apple primarily was the pioneer in defining it's not about just an elegant design, but how efficiently it can be used and easily it can be used. So this is a quick example of showing that. There could be signs in places where this is not good, and this is another example of road signs showing information of signals and directions, and there's too much of information, confusing direction, and it can mess up traffic and the chaos going on as well. So there's examples of good design and bad design. Usually there is a trend feature going on. There is always the trendy, the hot feeling right now kind of a scenario. But those things sizzle out after some point of time and really go out of trend. And some things which are more simple, more long-term basis really stay. So the trendy things usually do not stay long. For example, this used to be trend at some point of time, right? This was popular. This was in thing at some point of time, and not anymore, all right? And I'm sure some people might relate to it and understand it, what we're talking about, and it was the case. Some highlights of pointing out this kind of information. A dream car like that, right? Who doesn't want this kind of a car? You want this not only as a beautiful and elegant, but you want it to perform as well. So that's kind of a combination or theme which we are trying to bring in. Usefulness along with elegance. And that's kind of a theme which I'm bringing it together. So to bring it all together, this is the methodology in trying to keep it, make it successful. And in my mind, I think Tableau doesn't preach themselves, but I think this is a methodology which in design principles, Tableau is using quite a lot of that. KISS stands for keep it simple and straightforward. That's a statement and how we really go about making things. Keep it simple and straightforward, and things will go properly. To make, we're going to go in the 4 design principles: the grid, hierarchy, the contrast, and color. So I'm just going to give some examples to illustrate this. And what we are really talking about is the initial part which I said is how beautification and design can be an elegant part of the overall concept or product which you make to yourself. So the grid, the first one is the grid. Now this is a city in Greece. It is designed to confuse the invading pirates, and this has been made like a mess. You travel to the maze and you don't confuse the streets because it's not following the grid. It's not following any pattern. So exactly opposite is following something with a pattern, and following a pattern really gives you much of a design and elegance. The design, digital designing happens these days using grids, the Unigrid. The Unigrid was designed primarily by the flyers which you get in the national parks. This is how it was designed, and it's still all the national parks in the U.S. are still using this kind of design. In fact, many of the industries and digital aspects are using it. In fact, Tableau, I will show that, is using a design grid kind of concept to align things instead of having like alignments and all that thing. It's automatically done for you. I think so. This grid is the first principle within your KISS methodology. Next is hierarchy. How you keep your characters and hierarchy in place to make it happen. You have a header with broader text, subheader, and information. Let's say this example. Here are 2 newspapers, and newspapers and articles, magazines, all of these places, this theory is followed. I can't read Arabic, but I can tell for sure what's happening is this is the headline. This is some news about particular Osama bin Laden, and there is headline of the title, and there are some details about it. Without even knowing the language, because of this hierarchy, because of the font typography, we can make sense out of it. And that's, again, an important design principle. So that's a second design principle which we're talking about in terms of hierarchy. Contrast. Contrast can be used very, very, very effectively in your design. Everybody is noticing this person, right, in this photograph. The guy, the kid who in the family photograph, he didn't want it to blend in and wear the same thing, right? For our eyes, the rest of the people do not even exist. I mean, yes, the family might be looking in it. For a new person, everybody's eyes first goes on that new person or the odd man out, the contrast. And it just stands out and completely on a face. And the rest of everybody just looks similar, just blend in together. So it can be used in a very powerful way to highlight something, some piece of information, some kind of place where you want people to put attention to. And that's very effectively used in many, many, many places. In social marketing, in shops and places where you go for shopping, malls and all these things is used effectively by marketers to really get sales. So that's an important trick as well. was a magazine which I took a snippet from. This is called Where is Waldo? This was a very popular comic series which became in 80s. And what it's trying to do, it's trying to find Waldo, a character, in this whole mess. And I don't know if anybody is a fan or knowing this from the past. I know it's older stuff, but this was a very popular one. So the point is, it's very hard to find this guy, Waldo, in this whole thing. But now it's so easy. Why? Because the contrast. What we got is the contrast, and everything is laid out, and you're focused on Waldo. And this used to be a comic magazine where this character was all over the place, and people used to look in these pictures and try to find it. Using in this image, it's almost impossible to find it. In this image, the contrast really helps. So that's a third ingredient making life easier for better design. Finally, color, right? Color could be effectively used in a lot of representations, but can be overused as well, like this diagram, this photo. This is not the right way of using color. This is just the wrong way of using color we are emphasizing. So color is very valuable, but too much of color can really mess up the whole thing as well. So you have to be really good in what your choices are in terms of designing your any kind of product, visual, graphical, charts, whatever it may be. So this is a quick representation of color. Talking of color, Martha's Living is slowly constructed a million-dollar business, multi-million business, just out of different palettes of colors and the way the products are designed. So that's a very powerful use of color. And this is a whole industry which is created just because of elegant uses of color and the whole palette of colors. These are some of the palettes of colors which could be really enticing or pleasing to eyes instead of all that gaudy color which you saw in the first image of color. So that was just emphasizing those points and highlighting. So there is a consideration to keep all these four things in your mind before you really start designing. So what we are really talking about, core design principles. There is nothing about Tableau specifically we are talking, but I think that's important ingredient as well. So keep it simple, keep it clean. That's the theme. One important thing, you also have to look into color blindness, right? Using color in a way where some people cannot see it. There is this ratio of 8% females and males, and so much percentage of people cannot see color. And the best way to find is this. I don't want to pinpoint anybody, but this is a test which helps people to find, like, if you are able to see a number, what is the number we're seeing? Okay, there you find something. So there's 16. And it starts getting harder and harder. What's the number here? These are different tests. Some of the tests, some people have it, some people don't have it. It's harder. Getting harder. Right? 74. The red-green colorblind would say 21, right? So these are considerations you have to make a design. You have to make for everybody, not for just like people don't even think about all those aspects. Yes, it's a minority, luckily, fortunately, but it is there. This one, 42. Yes. I'm going to go home and start doing just find this test and everybody's going to start looking at. I was not sure at that point of time. Somebody said 42. Yes, this could be a possibility, and this is something, again, a side aspect of color. What I'm trying to bring in together is several considerations, some things to think about to really make an elegant design. Also, less is more. I mean, trying to put in too many things is not the best elegant design. Having less and more is something which is becoming an integral part of this thing. This was one of the initial websites of Apple. Can you believe it? One of the older ones, at least I can say that. What's going on and all kind of crazy things. And if you see a BMW ad going on there as well, right? They're trying to make some, this is a literal screenshot of an Apple website at some point of time. Believe it, believe or not. This is what less is more. This is beauty. This is elegance. Today, right now, I've taken to the morning. That's what it's showing. It says many sliders, but that's what less is more is all about. This is not long ago, Amazon, January 2012, right? This is a snippet of that. It looks still good. It still looks good today. Less is more. Everybody's moving to that trend, and it makes it pleasing. Trying to put too much information, your mind cannot grasp it. So having less and more in your design is very, very, very important. And all of these principles, which we are trying to highlight and inform, are going to be useful in designing in this. You're not trying to make a toy. You're not trying to make a crazy toy out there. You're trying to make a useful utility and keeping it simple, valuable hammer versus this funky toy, which may do its job or maybe not even do its job. It looks trendy, but it is not doing the job. So that's the kind of summary which we want to bring in the design aspect of it. Keep these thoughts into considerations, and Tableau is doing these things. So we are started with a theme of Tableau, defining it easy and useful. So what I have taken, this is a theme of this, and what I have talked about so far is beautiful. What we are really focusing is trying to make it beautiful and somewhat useful as well, right? It's not about just looking good. I think the kind of ease of information which you get at from the contrast, from the different colors, what you get, it makes it life easier and makes it useful for people to use it. So that's kind of a mix, which is the first part which I wanted to talk and share. What do you guys think? Any thoughts, questions? Useful? What was this going on, right?